replacement of Spellberg Pool. The master planning process included a review of the existing public facilities, private aquatic facility operators, a review of the change in city demographics since the last aquatic master plan was completed, and public input received during the master planning process. All of this information was used to analyze and create a citywide 10-year plan for public aquatic facilities. The recommended plan provides aquatic opportunities for the entire city in the most prudent and efficient manner. The city hired Councilman Hunsaker and Associates to develop a citywide aquatic facility master plan. They are a national aquatics consulting firm that specializes in aquatic master plans. After doing the initial research and receiving input from the general public and focus groups, the consultant found the following. The traditional public pools are physically and functionally obsolete. Those would include Spellberg, Kuehn, and Frank Olson. There is also a need for indoor water due to the other indoor providers being at or near capacity and there being no current public indoor options. Because of the need for more indoor water, there's a lack of opportunities for year-round aquatic programming for a segment of the population, including children, seniors, veterans, and for swimming instruction. They also found that we have overlapping service areas with our existing outdoor public facilities and gaps in our service areas. The consultants recommended phase 1 of the master plan was to replace the existing Spellberg pool with an indoor aquatic facility. Doing this would replace an aging and obsolete pool in the park system. It would meet the immediate needs for public indoor water in the city, and its centralized location and 5-mile service radius would serve the entire community. In addition, its location to the VA hospital could provide warm water therapy opportunities and access for veterans and their families on a year-round basis. The Aquatic Facility Master Plan was completed in early 2013. A copy of the report can be found on the website at siouxfalls.org/parks. As the Aquatic Facility Master Plan was being developed in early 2013, the Spellberg Outdoor Pool Petition was developed and circulated in the community. In April 2013, the petition signatures were confirmed and presented to the City Council. The City Council then set April 8, 2014 as the date for the election on the Spellberg Outdoor Pool. The petition requires that the current outdoor swimming pool at Spellberg Park be replaced by a new outdoor swimming pool. It also stipulates that the cost of the new outdoor pool cannot exceed $7.5 million. It must be built by December 31st, 2015 at the latest, and the size of the new outdoor pool complex, including parking, cannot exceed the current complex footprint by more than 20%. This ballot will accompany the city attorney's explanation on the ballot. A yes vote is for the construction of an outdoor pool complex, and a no vote is against the construction of an outdoor pool complex at Spellberg Park. In July of 2013, the City Council approved a contract with TSB Architects and Councilman Hunsaker and Associates to develop conceptual plans of both an outdoor and indoor facility at Spellberg Park to help inform voters what each facility would look like and how it would be located within Spellberg Park. The outdoor facility concept conforms to the requirements set forth in the ballot initiative. The indoor facility concept is largely based on the recommendations from the Aquatic Facility Master Plan.
I'm Tori Biedema, Park Development Specialist for the Parks and Recreation Department. The next few slides are the results of the conceptual work our consultants prepared. Let's start with the outdoor facility. Here's a site plan showing how it will fit on the site. Working from the top of the page, or from the north if you're familiar with the park, you can see that the existing picnic and playground area has been retained. The usable or flat open green space in the northern third of the park is retained as well. The tennis courts and basketball court would be relocated within the park close to the picnic shelter. The sand volleyball courts would be shifted slightly. The existing walkways around and through the park would be retained and enhanced. The sledding hill would also be left untouched and actually enhanced with more convenient parking. This is a floor plan of the proposed outdoor aquatic center. Working from the west, see 2 water slides, 3 25-meter lap lanes, a current channel, a zero-depth pool with spray nozzles and play features, plaza area, and the bathhouse. There will also be about 179 parking spaces to handle the daily parking demand. The complex, with parking included, maximizes the space allowed per the Spellenberg outdoor petition. To give you an idea of the size of the pool, it is roughly the size of Laurel Oaks, minus the green space and sand play area. We also have some 3D images to give you a feel of how the facility will look. This is an aerial view from Western Avenue looking west. You can see the bathhouse in the foreground with the pool and the VA in the background. Here's another shot of the bathhouse from ground level looking west. The bathhouse mimics the design of the bathhouse at Drake Springs, our most recently built pool. This is a good shot of the zero-depth pool. You can also see the plaza area to the left and deck and grass area to the right. This is right after entering the facility through the bathhouse. This is a shot looking east towards Western Avenue. You can see the current channel to the left and the 3 25-meter lap lanes to the right. Just out of sight to the right are 2 water slides. Now look at the indoor aquatic facility. The site plan is essentially the same as the outdoor facility, with the only difference being the indoor facility is slightly larger due to the additional amenities being provided. We are proposing a 203-stall parking lot to handle the daily parking demands generated by the facility. Here's a look at the proposed floor plan for the facility. Working from the left, you can see an outdoor spray ground area and sun deck for the warmer times of the year. In addition to a warm water therapy pool, there are 2 water slides that run out on the deck. Next to that is a current channel. Also in this space are 3 25-meter lap lanes and a zero-depth pool with spray nozzles and interactive play features. There are also community rooms and a dry viewing area. Moving up and to the right, you can see a 50-meter by 25-yard pool. There will also be movable bulkheads to split the water body into 3 separate areas, which provides for a lot of programming flexibility. There are 2 1-meter diving boards and 1 3-meter board towards the far right. There's also seating for 500 off the deck. Now we have some 3D images to show you the different features. This is an aerial view from Western Avenue looking west towards the VA hospital. This is a closer view of the front door looking west from ground level. This is a shot of the recreational side of the building. In the foreground, you can see the zero-depth pool with 3 25-meter lap lanes immediately to the left. In the background, you can see the 2 water slides. There's also a lot of glass in the building to allow in natural light. This is from the far west side of the recreational area. You can see the therapy pool to the right and the current channel to the left. Out past the windows to the right, you can see the outdoor sun deck. This is a look from the outside of the building. To your left, you can see the outdoor spray ground, and further to the right, you can see another view of the sun deck. This is a shot of the 50-meter by 25-yard pool. The bulkheads are to one end, but this pool can be split into 3 different bodies of water. In the far left corner of the picture, you can see the diving boards. In the far right corner, you can see the elevated seating and office space.
So, how do the outdoor and indoor facilities compare? First, let's look at it from a usage point of view. An outdoor pool could be open up to 90 days out of the year, depending on weather. The indoor facility would be open 360 days per year. The outdoor pools are typically open 8 hours per day, while the projected indoor pool would be open for 15 hours per day. That equals 720 hours of availability for the outdoor pool and 5,400 available hours for the indoor pool on an annual basis. The Aquatic Facility Master Plan projects that the bather load capacity of the outdoor facility is 330, compared to 583 for the indoor facility. Based on an approximate turnover rate of 2.5, the daily bather load capacity is 831 for the outdoor facility and 1,520 for the indoor facility. Now, a couple numbers on cost. The estimated net cost per hour to operate the outdoor facility is $290, compared to $128 for an indoor facility. The estimated cost to build the outdoor facility is $7.5 million, while the cost to build the indoor facility is $19.4 million. We also wanted to compare the amenities in the concept plans. Both facilities will have zero-depth pools, lap lanes, water slides, a current channel, and outdoor spray features and sun decks. On top of that, the indoor concept also includes 3 diving boards, a therapy pool, and multi-purpose rooms. In addition, it would also have a 50-meter pool with 2 movable bulkheads that allows the pool to be divided into 3 bodies of water for programming flexibility.
I'm Mike Cooper, Director of Planning and Building Services for the City of Sioux Falls. And I'll be talking about parking and traffic impacts from the 2 proposed facilities. Another question that was raised during our study with neighborhood meetings was parking. The concept plans include parking lots sized according to projections found in the aquatic facility master plan. The outdoor facility concept shows a 179 stall parking lot, while the indoor concept shows a 203 stall parking lot. Our city traffic engineering staff researched similar facilities in the region and found that the proposed parking lots for both facilities were adequate to meet the daily parking needs. City traffic engineering also analyzed the parking needs for potential swim meets that could occur if an indoor facility was built. They collected data from a 4-day swim meet at Frank Olson Park in 2013 and found that on average 250 parking spaces are needed on a daily basis during the swim meet. It also was believed to be the largest swim meet ever held in the state of South Dakota during that time. When looking at available parking, they identified 64 on-street parking spaces along 22nd and 26th Streets adjacent to the park. When factoring in these 64 parking spaces and the 203 available spaces within the park itself, that would actually exceed the demand for a swim meet without having to use neighborhood and street parking. We would also not be using the VA hospital parking lots during a swim meet event. It's common that we would see typically 2 to 3 swim meets held annually for our facility. In addition to the parking, city traffic engineering also looked at what would be the projected traffic impacts that each facility would generate along Western Avenue compared to existing traffic flow. We found that traffic will not increase as a result of the indoor facility when compared to the existing outdoor pool because the traffic will be spread out over a longer period of time throughout the day. We did find that traffic could increase by about 100 cars per day with the new outdoor pool concept plan when compared to the current outdoor pool facility.
Hi, I'm Tracy Turback, the City Finance Director for the City of Sioux Falls. Now that you've heard about the 2 options and understand how the indoor and the outdoor facilities compare with each other, let's consider financing. As you saw earlier, the estimated cost for the outdoor facility is $7.5 million. The indoor facility estimated costs are $19.4 million. In the capital plan that the City Council adopted last fall, the outdoor facility is not considered. And so if the decision ultimately is made to move forward with an outdoor aquatics facility, the capital plan would need to be amended and the money would need to be appropriated by the City Council. Now that long-term capital plan that the Council did approve last fall does provide for an indoor aquatics facility. The plan provides funding of $6.4 million from available cash, with the balance to be funded by the sale of sales tax revenue bonds. 2 other key points to remember in regard to the indoor facility: the operating costs for that indoor aquatic facility have been included in the city's long-term financial forecasting models, and no tax increases will be needed to pay for the construction of the facility.
Thank you for allowing us to share this information with you today. If you have any questions, you can email us at stellarberg@siouxfalls.org.
All right, before we get started, just a reminder that if you would just raise your hand before you start speaking.
Don, I'd like to read this and
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Danielson, a resident of Sioux Falls. I've been active in issue and candidate campaigns for almost 50 years. As a group of us began to watch the issue campaigns build, we saw serious issues with the way the 2014 Sioux Falls city election was being managed. We banded together to create a new organization to help protect the ballot process for Sioux Falls voters. I was asked to be chairman of a group, as you may now have heard of, Citizens for Integrity. The city of Sioux Falls is legally allowed to only supply in written form a simple, clear language explanation of what a yes vote means and what a no vote means. That's it, nothing more, nothing less. The 4 video ballot measures being presented are not the only issues the voters must make decisions on this election. There are actually 7 ballot questions. Demand your city be forthright in legally presenting all of them to the people who are expected to vote on April 8th. We wish to remind you tonight city officials will be presenting these 4 biased advocacy videos and public pronouncements disguised as education. We wish to thank you for being interested in the process, being here this evening, and don't forget to vote on April 8th.
Yeah, I know that both the Chamber of Commerce and the Sioux Falls Development Foundation have endorsed the no vote and are supportive of having an indoor facility located in Sioux Falls, and specifically at a location that's accessible in the center of the city within that radius of 5 miles that typically an indoor facility serves. So that would cover all of Sioux Falls. And I think that's because the business community sees the benefit of having, offering things to our citizens that are comparable with other cities that are in our state and that are nearby. And so, I think that speaks to the need for a public indoor facility that we currently don't have. We don't have any public indoor swimming in Sioux Falls. And I think that's very important to have and to offer to citizens, and especially to offer to all citizens who have maybe not the ability to afford a membership at a swimming facility. And so I was wondering if you could talk about what the cost would be to individual kids or an individual family at a public indoor facility, and how, just kind of what that cost would be, so we have a sense of the comparison and what would be available to citizens.
Well, ultimately, the city council will set those fees if a new facility is constructed, but the projections that are in the aquatic facility master plan that were prepared by our consultant are based on our current rate structure that we have for general admission and season passes. An example would be, we essentially took our summer rate of $15 for a child, for example, and multiplied that by 4 over the 4 seasons, so spring, summer, winter, fall. And that would obviously equate to $60 for a child to swim all year long at both indoor and outdoor facilities, or all outdoor facilities, whatever it might be, ultimately. And so whatever the current rate is, whether it be a family pass, a child's pass, a senior pass, whatever it might be, multiply that by 4, or if you just wanted to do 2 or 3 seasons, you could do that as well. But ultimately, the city council will set those fees depending on what facility is constructed. Go ahead.
I want to just ask one more time. If I know you said you couldn't really clarify, but maybe you could explain it again. If the no vote prevails, will an indoor facility be built at Swellenberg?
No. Did you have something to say, Tim?
Yes, I do. If this is
Can I respond to her first?
Sure, you can.
Okay, thank you. The original, what's in the capital program is a indoor aquatic center, but the site is not specifically identified in that capital program. Obviously, if the yes vote prevails, we're directed to build an outdoor facility at that location, and the no vote would allow us to proceed with the facility at Skullerberg, but realize that the council would still have to approve the sales tax revenue bond financing as an action item subsequent to the election. So ultimately, the council will still have to sell the bonds to be able to do it. So The answer is, they could change their mind, I suppose, but the recommendation from the consultant is to place it at Speller.
So in other words, the only step between if a no vote prevails and building an indoor facility there would be the council approving a bond?
Correct. Go ahead, Tim.
If it is a no vote, that just says that there's not going to be another outdoor pool there. But the people can go out and get signatures and force to state, wait, we don't want that indoor pool.
Sure.
So you can wait another 6 months. We're $400 million in debt as a community, 380 something million in debt as a community. Now you want us to take out another $13.5 million bond. So that would put us over $400 million in debt. And our children and our grandchildren will have to pay this debt off. Now, if this economy doesn't stay the way it does, if the government doesn't buy the bonds that they are, and the interest rate goes up, building is going to go down, and things are going to start settling where they normally do. Now, I think the city has to realize one thing. When the public wants to go on and swim, and you guys have your swim teams there, who gets preference on that lane, that swimming pool? The public or the swim teams? That's what you gotta make a decision on, because we gotta make a decision on who we're building this swimming pool for. Is it gonna be the swim teams, or is it gonna be for the public? And I've always said that let's take this indoor swimming pool, let's take the whole walls down, let's take the top down, and let's build that facility the way the people want it. They don't want these at Drake Springs, and they want a different pool. They want a pool that they can enjoy, where older people can go to. Maybe we got to think that route too.
Thanks, Tim.
Does the city own land that's already been appropriated for parks that have not been developed yet?
We have undeveloped park sites across the city.
How many do you have?
And I think we have 10 total that are what we classify as undeveloped in a variety of different capacities. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I just saw something that statement today that the city presentation states that the third party who was consulted to evaluate Sioux Falls' current facilities said that the pools were at capacity. So we don't have, there's not enough pools out there to give everybody the ability to swim. So this evaluation was done last March before the YMCA closed its two pools. So this puts even a greater burden on the current standing pools that are already in effect. And to go and retort what he was saying is that you start to think about all Don made a perfect point on the fact that we have senior citizens, we have younger kids, we have so many different people, and we don't live in a state that has warmth. We have 3 months out of the year that we can swim. That's about it. And I have little kids, and I have elderly, there's grandparents that can get a lot of therapy pools. And so I just feel like we need one pool. It's embarrassing. Laverne has an indoor aquatic center. Aberdeen has an indoor aquatic center. Sioux City has an indoor aquatic center. We're the biggest city in the state of South Dakota that has nothing. We don't have an indoor pool, and it's not public. We have nothing for anybody in the state of South Dakota, in the city of Sioux Falls. So it's just a statement.
I would like to make one comment regarding some of the indoor pools that you see throughout the area. They are not freestanding swimming facilities. They are community rec facilities. They have such things as meeting rooms, racquetball courts, a number of things. If you look at Madison, that is a community center. Not only is it supported by the city of Madison, it's supported by Dakota State University. It is a joint venture. It has many, many activities. Watertown, again, you're looking at a community center. Rapid City, again, even though the main part of the building is swimming, there is a meeting room with a wooden floor, ballet bars, observation windows, etc. That room can be used for dances. They have racquetball courts, and so forth. So a lot of the facilities that you're talking about, the indoor facilities, are in conjunction with a high school, or I believe Watertown might be a high school, is that? Or something in conjunction with something. But most of these community centers could be partnered with like a college or a high school or some other facility would be included besides just swimming. So we're kind of comparing apples and oranges.
But they're publicly funded.
They're publicly funded, but they
That's
have...
the only point I think that's
Right.
being made is that, sure, that'd be great to have additional facilities, but we don't even have a public indoor pool, so we'd be.
I guess one point I'm trying to make is
Please,
that
Joanne.
there are activities within those buildings, probably for more of the day, which helps to pay the cost of those buildings, rather than just a few people in the water here and there.
I don't think it's going to be.
Thanks, Judy. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
To address the measure 2 itself, and then there's a lot of speculation about what will happen besides. Directly to the measure as it reads, no means it is not going to be built as outdoor pool, but it does not guarantee an indoor pool is going to be built anywhere else, it seems. Because of the weather, indoor pool, maybe a meeting room, like the library has, addressing a therapy pool I saw for, breaking off different areas so that one section could be for swimming, one could be for public. It sounds like a good plan, but directly for this, it's not guaranteeing you're going to get an indoor pool. It's just saying this is outdoor pool is going to happen or not.
Yeah, it's a good point. The indoor pool is not on the ballot. It's not on the ballot, and the point that was made earlier is that because we have the initiative process available to us in the state of South Dakota, there could be another petition circulated, which could also potentially delay any efforts to build a facility there. So that's reality is potentially out there. So.
And one more point, the revenues that are going to be obtained by memberships to a pool, is that going to be offsetting the cost to build a pool?
It will offset a portion of the cost, but not all of the cost. It'll, if you remember.
But it will go towards
yes,
that
absolutely.
fund.
It'll be an enterprise within itself, just like our other aquatics programs.
I think in order to keep this on track, Don's going to go out in the hall. If there's any questions about the pool, any people that have questions about the pool can go out in the hall with Don. The Snowgate presentation will be next. Thanks, Don.
Good, thank you.
Why does these people rate SWIP 365, instead of going and getting $10,000 and putting signs out on the streets, why didn't they hold that for a building fund so they could build their own facility? So the citizens can partnership with the swim team. And that's the swim teams. That would be the swim teams that would rent out to the public to make excess money to make it. The thing is, the swim teams don't want to do that because why?
Here we go. Okay, I'm Galen Huber. I'm the street fleet manager. And over the last 4 years, I'm the one that put on the test for the snow gates. I have a 10-minute video, and then I'll answer any questions that you have.
Hello, I'm Galen Huber, street fleet manager for Public Works. Today I'd like to talk to you about two things. One is the ballot question, snow gates that you're going to see in
Yes, I will.
And the other is how we went about over the last 3 winters testing, and then also the results of those snow gate tests that we did do. So let's start out with the ballot question. This is the wording that the city received along with the signatures on the initiative to implement snow gates. This is what you will see on the ballot in April. And just a brief explanation on what this means. If the voters approve this initiated measure, then the city would use snowgate devices to aid in snow removal program for streets within the city of Sioux Falls.
A vote yes is for the use of snow gates in the city's snow removal program. A vote no is against the use of snow gates in the city snow removal program. So let's talk about how we went through and tested snow gates, and then we'll get into the results of those tests. First of all, what is a typical winter in Sioux Falls? The typical winter is approximately 43 inches of snow, which means I have to plow out the city approximately 5 times. So what is a snow alert then when I do declare a snow alert? A snow alert means that we go in and we plow every street within the city of Sioux Falls. There's approximately 3,000 lane miles within the city of Sioux Falls, and it takes just under 30 hours to plow off the city on an average basis. As you can see from this slide, this is the 3 winters that we actually tested snow gates. And you can see the first winter was a very typical winter for us, in which we had 6 snow alerts and we had 45.6 inches of snow. The other 2 winters were a lot less snow than what we normally would receive. We also tried to take a look at when we were using snow gates, we tried to spread it out throughout the entire city. We tried to go into mature areas of town where the streets are a little bit narrower. We also tried to go to the outer city limits of the city where the streets are a little bit wider and the lots are a little bit larger. We also tried to get different types of configuration of streets, hilly streets, streets with curves, flat streets. Also, we could get a good measure of how snow gates would work. And over the 3-year process, we basically tested 20% of the city streets with snow gates. So what did we consider when we were out using the snow gates? First of all, we want to know the snow amount per event, the type of snow. By that I mean if it's a wet snow or a dry snow, the total snow accumulation for the event, and then again we get into the street characteristics as far as narrow streets, wider streets, how wide the driveway is, the spacing between driveways, and then the type of equipment that we use as far as the snow gates themselves, and then the operator experience. One other thing that we took a look at was the private contractors. Private contractors provide 40% of our snow removal operation during a snow alert. And so we had to take a look at their coordination as far as shifting, communications, fueling, and their repair and maintenance. So what did we learn from snow gates? We found out that it does effectively reduce snow in driveways and intersections up to a certain amount of snow. Normally that point for us in Sioux Falls is right about 6 inches. Anything below 6 inches, it worked very effectively. Above 6 inches, the efficiency went down. Also, the difference between wet snow and dry snow. Dry snow was, we were able to blade off with snow gates a lot easier than wet snow. Wet snow tended to hang up in the blade, and it was harder for it to discharge away from the blade. And then again, cul-de-sacs are hard without snow gates, and with snow gates it added another challenge for us. The other thing that we also seen was that streets will be narrow throughout the winter using snow gates. We also seen that using our 6-wheel drive motor graders was essential to make sure that we were able to push the snow as close to the curb as we could. And then also the operator effectiveness improved greatly with experience. Each year that we tested, I used the same operators, and every year they became more efficient on how they were able to operate the snow gates. And then also the teamwork that's required with the contractors. We tested 2 different types of snow gates during this 3-year process, and the hinky snow gates performed the best. They allowed us to get to the curb the closest. They were engineered so they fit our moldboard better, and it allowed us to also clean the gutter pan better than with the other snow gate. What are the snow gate opportunities that you'll see? Snow gates do reduce snow in the driveways. Snow gates do reduce the snow in the intersections. As we go through an intersection, we'll close the gate and pull the snow all the way through instead of leaving a windrow and discharge it when we get on the other side. And then we did receive a lot of positive feedback from the public on snow gates. What are some of the risks that we may experience with snow gates? It's going to increase our time. We have to drive slower with snow gates in order to keep the snow in the blade. And there's also potential for more breakdowns because snow gates have hydraulic hoses and parts in them that can break down. So it could add to the delays. And then also the logistics of working with contractors and snow gates. Another one of the risks that we may experience is narrowing of the streets. What type of risk would this cause? Certainly our main goal is safety, and not only for the driving public, but also for the first responders out there. We want to make sure that the streets are wide enough so they can get their equipment through the street, especially like fire trucks. The other thing it may do is it may cause us to eliminate on-street parking during the winter if the streets do get too narrow. It will cause us to have to do a lot more plowbacks because of narrow streets, and with drifting, the drifts will come out onto the driving lanes a lot quicker, which means we'll have to react to it. And some of the things that we're seeing right now as we get snow melt, the inlets are plugged and the water doesn't have any place for it to basically to leave the street. And we're going to have to go out and open up those inlets to physically get the water to drain out the streets. So those are some of the risks that you may experience with narrowing streets. Some of the flexibilities that we may have to have with snow gates is limiting their use. We may have to limit their use if we receive a snow event of over 6 inches. Again, we want to make sure that the streets are clean and safe once we go through them. And we were experiencing situations with over 6 inches of snow that if there's so much snow going over the blade and around the blade, it didn't even look like we were plowing. So we may have to limit it with more than 6 inches of snow. And also in streets where the snow is starting to narrow it, we may have to eliminate using snow gates on certain streets during the winter season. The test data has two concerns. One of them is that 2 of the 3 years were very mild winters, and we didn't get a lot of data from those 2 mild winters. And the actual financial results may vary based on winter conditions and identifiable variables within the winter. What did we consider as far as costs when we were looking at snow gates? We looked at the plowing costs, which includes fueling, labor, materials, and then the initial cost of purchasing the snow gates, and then thirdly, the cost of picking up the snow. What we found out from the data once we collected it, as far as fuel consumption goes, depending on the type of snow, if we have a really dry snow, we had very little additional fuel consumption with snow gates. As we got heavier and wetter snow, the fuel consumption did increase with the use of snow gates. Operational times was showing that same type of curve. If we had dry snow, it wasn't taking us that much longer to do this entire city with snow gates versus the heavy wet snow when we had to go and plow the city out. It took longer. And then again, that associates along with the time. We can plow the city out normally in less than 30 hours. With snow gates, it's probably going to take us a little over 30 hours. What are the estimated costs for operating snow gates within the city? There's a one-time cost of purchasing the snow gates, and we estimate that we'll need 33 snow gates for $198,000. And then the annual cost that will go along with operating snow gates would be the fuel, the labor, the equipment costs, the contractors, installation, maintenance, and replacement of snow gates, which amounts to about $325,000. And then one of the things that we've seen the first winter, when we had a very average winter of 46 inches, we actually had to go in and pick up snow on some residential streets that we normally don't pick up snow on. So estimating that we're going to have to go in and pick up some of these streets, we're putting a dollar amount of anywhere from $0 to $290,000 to do additional snow pickup. And this would be primarily around school zones to provide for safety of children when they're being dropped off and when they're being picked up. So the total annual cost to operate snow gates within the city of Sioux Falls should range somewhere between $325,000 and $615,000 on a yearly basis. I hope this has helped you to understand how the operation of snow gates work within the city of Sioux Falls, the data that we collected, and also the results. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact either Mark Cotter, the Director of Public Works, or myself. Thank you.
Any questions?
Do they use them in alleys?
No. No, just some
How is
residential.
an
Just
alley treated?
What's that?
How is an alley like an intersection?
No, what they do is we actually have a contractor that goes in there with, basically with payloaders. And what they do is they push it all the way out of the alleyway.
So then we get all the snow on going onto the street.
Yeah, well, sometimes we make them pick it up. Like this year, we made them actually pick it up one time when we had a lot of snows under 2 inches, and it started to build up and build up and build up and build up. And I think it was in December, we actually made them go in and clean the alleys out, and then load it up and haul it away. So we kind of keep an eye on that type of stuff. If it's a winter where we don't seem to get a lot of snow, sometimes we can go ahead and push it and leave it there, and it will melt. But if we get a winter like this where we get lots of snows piling up on top of each other, a lot of little ones, we'll look at trying to clean that out. So you had a question back there.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say, having grown up here in the city, I think that you guys do a great job as far as snow removal. Thank you for having it well organized.
Thank you.
And as far as these tests are concerned, though, with the snow gates, I know cul-de-sacs are a little tricky in terms of plowing. They said that snow gates obviously are a complicating factor with that. In the end, where does that snow get deposited? Is it going to be kind of unequally distributed as you start to curve around at the top, or?
The method on cleaning out a cul-de-sac is you have the coming into the cul-de-sac and then you have the bulb like this. And what we like everybody in the city, there's always 2 motor graders. Like say you got a straight road, there's a motor grader running the center line, and then there's a motor grader running the gutter pan. And what they'll do is deposit that snow towards the driveways. Okay. In the cul-de-sac, what they're supposed to do is go in with a motor grader, like it's running around the bulb, and leave enough room so that another motor grader comes beside it and runs the curb, and then everything that's left gets pulled out, and then take it and it's fed down the street. That's what you're supposed to do. Now, what the difficulty with that, with a snow gate is, when you're trying to pull that stuff that's left in the bulb, and you're trying to pull that stuff out, there's so much snow there that it floats around both sides of the moldboard. The moldboard on one side and the snow gate the other comes across. And so there's multiple passes involved with doing that. But sometimes there's multiple passes with doing that even without a snow gate. So there's a challenge to doing, there's a real challenge to doing cul-de-sacs. My operators got into a routine on how to do them, especially the operators that worked out on the west side. There's a lot of cul-de-sacs out on the west side, west of 29, and they got figured out a method on how to do that. But there's a method to do it, but that's ideally how you do it. One pass goes towards the driveways and everything else gets pulled out and feathered down the street. You had a question here?
Yeah, from what I'm gathering, the snow gate is purely the instrument on the front of the truck.
The front of the motor grader. It's the yellow piece that's attached onto the front of the blade of the motor grader. It's off that right-hand side. When I was showing those hinky snow gates, you actually weld blanks onto the moldboard, and then these blanks have pins that you pin into where the snow gate mounts onto, and then you put hydraulics up to hook hydraulics to the motor grader. And the gate itself goes up and down right alongside the right-hand side of the moldboard, off the driver's side.
It looks like it only is really saving 4 hours per plow for the entire city.
Well, that's
at quite a cost.
Well, it's going to take, the reason it takes longer is, normally I can go over 10 miles an hour with a motor grader if I'm plowing without a snow gate. If I have a snow gate on, I have to go under 10 miles an hour. I'm running about 7 to 8 miles an hour, because if I go too fast, I can't keep the snow in the blade. It just floats, especially if it's real light, it floats out over the blade. And so that I have to drive slow enough so that I keep the snow in. Then when I open it up, it discharges out. That's where the problem that comes with narrowing the streets. The art of pushing snow is to have enough momentum so the snow rolls, and it rolls into the parking strip, and that's where I like to store it. But with the snow gate, I can't keep going fast enough to roll it so that when I open the gate, it discharges and then falls back down after I go past it. So every storm that happens after that first event, eventually what happens is the streets get narrower based on that. Because I can't get it to roll over. It pushes and falls, pushes and falls, pushes and falls, and every event it gets a little bit narrower. And I've talked to North Dakota as much as anybody has, and there's no way to get around that. That's just the way it is up there. They've had it for, Minot has had them up there for about 14, 15 years now. And I talked to them the Public Works Department up there quite a bit on them.
So you're saying the equipment you have now effectively, over time, get that snow off the road and onto the parkway?
Well, I can't go quick enough to roll it. It's going to end up falling into the shoulder is what's going to happen.
Right, so you're just kind of telling me that snow gating is not effective, really?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for less snow in your driveway, it's going to put less snow in your driveway. You're still going to have to go out and blow some snow in your driveway. I'm not going to get rid of all of it. There's still going to be some there to blow, but it's not going to be as much as if I didn't use them. That's basically the premise, up to a certain amount. When I get a certain amount of snow, and North Dakota's told me it's going to be up to around 7. In the test that I ran, it looks to me like in Sioux Falls it's up around 6. Once I hit 6 or more inches, I have so much snow out there I can't trap it, and then it goes over the blade and around the blade, and when you look back, it doesn't look like even 12. So that was the point that I was making with over 6 inches. There's going to be a point. I might at 6 inches, I might at 6.5 inches if it's really dry to be able to do it, but if it's 6 inches of really wet snow, I'm probably not going to be able to push that hard and get it to stay in the blade. Yeah.
You mentioned the difference between a dry and a wet snow makes an impact for how you can manage it. If they're predicting a storm, they're not sure if it's going to be rain or snow tomorrow. I see planes going out and they're seeding the clouds, and don't ask me what it is, I have no idea. But do they tell you I'm creating a storm with the seeding of the clouds and it's going to make for a wet storm on this day, and so you know how to act?
Well, what I do is I stay in pretty close contact with the National Weather Service. That's who we rely on to give us our data. And when they're talking about a winter storm coming through, that's one of the questions that I'll ask them is what they believe the water content of the snow is going to be, if it's going to be a dry snow or a wet snow. The reason for that is wet snow, when you're pushing a wet snow, even like if you've been shoveling and you're pushing wet snow, it piles up, and the more you push, it gets heavier. And then with the snow gate, when I open the snow gate, it's so packed in there, it doesn't want to push out. It sits there. And so actually what you have to do is you have to stop, you have to back up, and then knock it loose, and then hit it again with your gate open so that it discharges out. So wet snow is definitely more time consuming for us to do. Now, over the 3 years that I tested, I only had 2 storms I know that was wet. Other than that, they were all really dry storms. Some of them were so dry it was like pushing feathers. It floated on me. So, but that's.
That cloud's not going to help you then, in that case. Right?
Well, it's going to be more of a challenge for us to do it. Yeah. So I'll let Mike and Sam get on here so we keep on track.
Yeah, that's what we're just trying to do. I'm Mike Cooper, City Planning. The next video, if you're interested, is regarding the 85th of Minnesota zoning. Hello, I'm Mike Cooper, Director of Planning and Building Services for the City of Sioux Falls. Today I'll be talking about the referendum on commercial zoning at the corner of 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue. Last fall, the City Council passed an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls rezoning property at the southwest corner of 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue from agricultural to the planned commercial, office, and recreation conservation districts. The ballot will have a yes or no vote available. If you support the commercial zoning taking effect at 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue, a yes vote is in favor and a no vote is against. The area shown is the 39-acre site at 85th and Minnesota Avenue that was rezoned to the commercial, office, and recreation conservation districts. This is in the southwest corner of the intersection of those 2 streets. The 2 exhibits show the existing zoning on the left, which is agricultural, and the proposed zoning on the right, which again is a combination of office, commercial, and recreation conservation. At the time this zoning was presented to the City Council, a site plan was included showing the proposed Southside Walmart, along with 8 smaller lots for commercial or office development, as well as 3 stormwater drainage ponds. The zoning consideration was based in part on conformance with our comprehensive plan, This plan is the overall growth management plan for Sioux Falls development, extending out to the year 2035. The City Council adopted that plan in December of 2009. And the proposed zoning would be consistent with that plan, which shows this corner of 85th and Minnesota Avenue as a sub-regional employment center. An employment center size is determined by the type of streets as well as access points along those major streets. This shows the future development plan for Sioux Falls, including the roadways by type, as well as employment centers in the vicinity of 85th and Minnesota, which would be a sub-regional, as well as other smaller employment centers, which would be neighborhood or business park. A sub-regional employment center is intended to draw commerce not only from the city of Sioux Falls, but also from outside of the community. This type of employment center is typically located at the intersection of major arterial streets or adjacent to an interstate. And in this case, both 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue are major arterial roadways. Once again, the zoning exhibit shows the proposed zoning that was approved by the City Council that would include a combination of planned commercial, office, as well as recreation conservation. And finally, a reminder that the ballot will have a yes or no vote for this item. Do you support the commercial zoning taking effect at 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue? A yes vote is for the commercial zoning to take effect, and a no vote is against the commercial zoning taking effect. If you have any questions about this item, or if you would like additional information, you can contact the City Planning Office at 367-8888. Do you have any questions, ma'am?
I do, yes. Is this currently a active agricultural plot of land?
Yeah, the land is currently agriculturally used.
And what's it growing?
I'm not sure what's growing this year.
I think soybeans.
Soybeans, okay.
So it's not city land, you have to acquire the land too?
The land is in the city limits, but it's privately owned.
So that's what I'm asking, you're gonna have to acquire the land also? Or are you leasing the land, or?
The city would not be acquiring the land for this development.
So you're gonna lease the land from the current owner?
No. This would be a private development. The city would not be involved in the development of it.
Okay, you're just gonna allow the current owner to sell commercially
Yes.
an acre or two if he wants to chunk it up, whatever.
The zoning that the City Council approved would allow the landowner to develop the property for commercial or office uses.
Is there any kind of oversight by the city as to what company, what kind of industry can come in there?
The city, the zoning provides for retail and office uses. We have standards as far as building construction and building codes, but we don't determine the specific type of business. In this case, the commercial zoning would allow a whole variety of retail and office uses.
And that is all one owner, that one plot of land is one owner?
I believe it still is, yes.
Yeah, the development would be a Walmart, and then there's some outlots that are next to Minnesota and 85th Street. So you have stuff like one part is zoned for office space. Other things that might go in there might be like a local bank or a hair salon, neighborhood restaurant. In addition to that Walmart that would be a little further south, roughly 87th and Minnesota.
Wait, I'm a little confused. You're saying there's already a Walmart going in somewhere close by?
No, that's not what you said. This property that we're talking about tonight would allow for a Walmart store to go on it, part of it.
Well, anything commercial. Yeah. Why are you thinking it's going to be Walmart?
Walmart was the one who presented the rezoning request for it to be rezoned for commercial.
The Holman family wants to sell the land to Walmart so they could put this monster store on a small piece of property right in a residential area with questionable traffic issues to be addressed.
been down in Minnesota, I don't know about but I know urban sprawl is happening. Is there, like the nearest housing development, how close?
The nearest housing development is on the north side of 85th Street, just to the northwest of this corner.
Okay, so it's, towards the city from outer development.
Right, it's on the southern edge, and there's residential on the north side of 85th. And then on the east side of Minnesota Avenue, there's also commercial and other residential.
And Walmart has doesn't have to answer to the city for anything they do. They have zoning laws, parking, truck ramps and all that stuff already is probably going to meet commercial zoning standards. It's just the speculation that it's the Walmart. Is that?
Yeah, again, the Walmart was the applicant asking for the rezoning to occur.
And if it's a no vote, the owner has to keep it agricultural?
Yes.
Well, but they'll only keep it agricultural until somebody else wants to come in and build some kind of a small retail center or apartments or whatever it's going to be deemed acceptable for that zoning.
They would have to go through the new zoning.
Exactly.
Right, then it's another ballot issue.
So it's not going to be permanently agricultural, it's going to be developed in some sort.
Possibly.
Well, our next presentation can't start for 10 more minutes, so.
Okay.
But you're sure welcome to take, actually 11 more minutes, so yeah.
We're bound by the schedule.
How do you know it's Walmart?
Walmart is the business that put in the zoning request to change the zoning from agriculture to commercial. So if Walmart's the one putting in the request, they're the one wanting to build the store.
Why would they not be the owner?
Well, the landowner hasn't sold it to them yet until they get the final approval.
Again, why wouldn't it be the owner petitioning for the change? Why is it, from what he's saying?
Well,
it's-
the owner had to sign a petition also,
Okay,
but Walmart was the actual applicant for the rezoning. Is that,
yes,
okay, sure?
the owner still has to.
Yeah, the owner has to
You
agree.
didn't bypass them, is what I mean.
No, that did not happen.
And could he still say, I want it commercial, but I don't want Walmart?
Yes.
And you're saying it's consistent with the projected city planning, so we're looking at this to be a commercial property. Were you, with the city at that time thinking it would be a mega store?
Well, we don't determine the size of the stores. We'll just say that the comprehensive plan shows where future commercial development can go. And as the video talked about, the sub-regional employment center helps us determine the overall size of land area that would be developed for commercial or office uses. And in that corner of 85th and Minnesota, it's between 40 and 80 acres.
Would Walmart be buying the whole
No.
piece of land?
No, the area that was proposed to be rezoned is just under 40 acres. It's about 39 acres. And a portion of that would be proposed for the Walmart, and then there's additional 8 lots around it. There could be other different types of development.
Hey, Mike, how many times has that designation that changed on that corner? When you go back and you look at the maps from the anticipated maps in the 2015 plan and all these other plans you've had, it always looked like it was going to be some kind of a small retail area. Then in 2003, there was some maps drawn up for what looked like was going to be an extensive interchange there on SD 100 with Minnesota Avenue, and there was going to be a jog put in for 85th Street, and so that would have left a small development there for small retail and offices, quick stops, that kind of thing it looked like.
Are you talking
And then,
85th in Minnesota?
what's that?
Are you talking just at 85th?
85th in Minnesota between SD 100 and 85th.
First time anything ever showed up, because that's a new growth area.
I've got copies of maps done by the city planning office in 2003 that I would.
Not officially that.
So anyway, I have them and it's stamped with the Sioux Falls zoning and planning office, whatever you call that office. So I have the maps. So so anyway, I've got this stuff, and so I've been wondering. We have all these different changes that have gone on, and then all of a sudden, 2009, there gets to be this green dot or whatever you want to call it, dropped on the map on that corner as if none of this other stuff ever existed. And then you go through the process in 2009, from my understanding, there were only 12 empty lots in that housing development that's now going to be affected. So all of these houses, and I'm not even sure how many dozens of houses were already built or in the process of being built at the time the green dot was put on the map. And then now we have a Walmart coming in that was never intended to be in that spot. And we have different plans now for the design of 85th in Minnesota and SD 100 in Minnesota that now makes this huge building with 1,100 parking spots or something that dumps into actually one full interchange.
The comprehensive plan was amended in 2009, which was about a 2-year process. And so every time that we amend the comprehensive plan, there's going to be changes proposed. And that went through substantial public input as well, with public meetings. We met with county commissions, we met with city council, planning commission. We took that out into the community quite a bit.
Are there notes and records that I could come and examine? Where would I find those? Where would I find the notes from all of those meetings and all of those different plans and meetings that were scheduled?
Yep, we can show you what that would be.
So the full transcripts of all of those meetings would be there.
Yeah, a list of where they were and when they were.
You have time for one more question?
Yeah, we've got 5 more minutes.
Okay. Does the city in general do anything for environmentally green growth structure requirements for new businesses that are coming in? Recycling, clean air, anything like that?
The only thing that we're involved with as far as development would be for stormwater drainage, that you have to have your drainage system designed so that it retains the water on your site, depending on the type and the scale of it. And so that's part of why on this video it showed recreation conservation with 3 what we call detention ponds. And those would be designed to hold the runoff temporarily, and then it goes through a filtration system before it gets into the major drainage system. But we don't get into other types of regulations for recycling or air water, those kind of things that you're talking about.
Is there any departments and environmental?
Well, we work with the garbage haulers as far as recycling requirements, just in general, but that's not in a business by business case. It's more just citywide environmental recycling requirements that they need to meet.
How many signatures does it take to get a ballot?
5,000.
Right now, it's going to be around 5,200.
5,200, roughly 5,200.
So in these 2 ballot measures we're discussing here, they collected about 6,200 to 6,400. Snowgate's got 8,400, and the Spellerberg got 7,300.
You've got those memorized.
Yeah. Gee, I wonder why.
Is there a concern about Sioux Falls not really being agricultural friendly anymore?
Our city limits is now about 75 square miles. And with the growth and development, that will continue to expand. Our 2035 plan that we call it shows where the edges of the city could expand even farther out into the existing agricultural areas. So yes, one of the impacts of a growing city is that it's going to take agricultural land out of production. And that's what's been happening in Sioux Falls since, decades and decades ago.
Is that a mandate by the city, I can come in and take your property, or does the landowner have to agree?
No, the landowner always has to agree to develop their land. So if I own agricultural land, I can choose to continue farming it, or I can sell it for development. That's the property owner's choice. What we try to do is we try to identify where the growth areas could occur that would allow the city services to extend into those growth areas, such as water, sewer. And then we look at where future locations could be for schools and parks, fire stations, those kinds of things.
Is that area set up for sewer, water, all that light that
Yes.
should be needed? Yeah. So you really plan for that to go. It's all paved roads out there, no
There would be
roads?
There would be additional improvements needed for getting the water and sewer into that development, as well as the street improvements. But all of those could be accomplished with the development that would go forward there.
Does Walmart have to do that?
They would be responsible for certain improvements on the property, yes. Next year, the state of South Dakota is planning to improve Minnesota Avenue south of 85th Street towards Harrisburg. And then this year, we're still planning to put a traffic signal at the intersection of 85th and Minnesota. I'll do it just so I can practice, thank you. Okay, it's now officially 7:10. The last video will be regarding the shaped places zoning ordinance. We'll see if Mike can make it.
Hello, I'm Jeff Schmidt with the City of Sioux Falls. I'd like to introduce you to one of the ballot items that's coming up in April. This is the ballot item that's included in regards to the zoning ordinance for the April 8th election. What is shaped places? Shaped places is the first major update of the existing 1983 zoning ordinance. This was approved by City Council in March of 2013 with a vote of 7-0. The proposed ordinance that is going forward in April develops the places that we have in the City of Sioux Falls. Where specific places are located, such as where you live, work, shop, or go to school, how places are designed, how tall they are, how far away they are, and what the places should look like. The lighting, the parking, the trees, the signage. The city attorney's explanation of shaped places says that a vote yes is for shaped places to take effect, a vote no is against shaped places taking effect. And this is how the ballot will be in April. Shaped places does not affect the Southside Walmart. The shaped places zoning ordinance and commercial decisions at 85th and Minnesota are two separate and distinct issues. Whether shaped places in effect or not, a large commercial store could still be built at 85th and Minnesota Avenue. If the 1983 zoning ordinance remains in effect, the existing ordinance and the standards will be enforced. In regards to that, the single-family districts allow a variety of land uses. Older residential lots need a 50-foot frontage in order to have construction on them. There are only 2 fence options, and all commercial buildings go into one commercial zoning district called the C4 Planned Commercial District. If shaped places takes effect, the new ordinance states these standards. The new ordinance has a separation distance from residential, and the shaped places has zoning matter. Shaped places states the zoning all on one page. There are sheets like this that show what the overlay districts are, what the requirements are, what the setbacks are, and they show it in one page. There are separation distances from single family. The standardized distances that are used in regards to residential districts. These are just some of the examples in shaped places. Full-service restaurants have to be 250 feet away from residential land uses. Halfway houses have to be 1,000 feet away, and adult uses have to be 1,000 feet away. This is not a conditional use. There are separation distances that are required in shaped places. Saying that zoning matters in shaped places. The decision-making process did not change between the existing ordinance and the proposed ordinance. The public decisions are made when zoning is decided. For example, uses are decided when the area is zoned. This is still being done at Planning Commission and City Council for rezonings. However, what gets confusing are uses are designed after zoning. So again, if you think about zoning matters, that's the upfront process. Uses are decided when the area is zoned. For example, again, on the left-hand side, you can see the existing ordinance, and on the right-hand side, you can see the proposed shaped places. The ordinance has not changed. You're still required, if you're rezoning property, to post signs on the property. You still have to notify people within 300 feet, and there's still advertisement in the public paper prior to that public hearing. Also in shaped places, there are 5 or 6 different significant changes that we'll highlight. Shaped places make single family. That allows construction on older residential lots. There are more fence options. Shaped places promotes more than one commercial area, requires consistent landscaping areas, and shaped places assist with this ever-changing market. Single family means single family. The existing ordinance allows twin homes, assisted living centers, daycare centers, middle schools, group homes, and nursing homes all in a residential single family district. Shaped places would not allow these uses in a residential single family district. If those uses would be requested, that land would have to be rezoned and have to have public hearings. Construction on older lots. In regards to the historic preservation areas, there's going to be a district in shaped places called Residential Historic Preservation. And all primary and accessory buildings would have to maintain the same design for that district. Also, the existing ordinance requires 50-foot lots. Now, with shaped places, they support development within the core by allowing the construction on the existing 44-foot lots. There's more backyard fence options. The existing ordinance allows a 6-foot tall fence that has to be 10 foot back from the property line, or a 4-foot tall fence at the property line. Shaped places allows those same 2 options, a 6-foot fence and a 4-foot fence, plus a 5-foot tall fence, 5 foot back, staggered fences, columns on fences, and capped fences. There's additional commercial options. The existing ordinance has all the commercial within a C4 planned commercial district. However, the one thing with that is if you're doing a commercial district that has greater than 1 acre or more than 15,000 square feet, you have to go through a conditional use permit. With shaped places, there's standards for commercial districts by size and again by impact. So a C1 district, you can only build up to 4,000 square feet. A C2 district, you could only go up to 25,000 square feet. A C3 district, you could only go up to 75,000 square feet. And then the C4 district under shaped places would be unlimited. Required buffer yards. The buffer is the landscape area when commercial or office is adjacent to residential. The existing ordinance does not have buffer yards. With shaped places, there's a requirement that the buffer increases as the development increases. For example, if there's a large commercial development, you may need to have a 30-foot and a 4-foot berm with 40 units, or if there's even more commercial development or office, it could be a 45-foot buffer yard with a 6-foot berm. Again, these are standard requirements within shaped places. Now we have a changing market in regards to the city of Sioux Falls in this area. The existing ordinance has 270 different planned development districts, which are zoning classifications throughout the city of Sioux Falls. Shape Places would allow an option of mixed use or live-work districts. Mixed use is having the ability on a zoning classification to maybe have an office building above a residential area, or live-work is having in one area the ability to live and work in one zoning area. Any questions and answers that the public may have, feel free to contact the City of Sioux Falls Planning Office at the city's website at siouxfalls.org. We have information on there in regards to the meetings that were led up to putting Shape Places together. There's information in regards to the ordinance itself. There's images on there, there's examples on there, and there's background data, all in regards to Shape Places and the effective zoning ordinance. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about the City of Sioux Falls and the zoning ordinance. If you have any questions or need additional information, please don't hesitate to call. Our information is here on this slide presentation about the ballot information, and also feel free to contact Jeff Schmidt at the city's Planning and Building Services Office, 367-8891. Again, thank you.
Questions or comments? Should we turn the lights up a little bit, folks, or let's do that? Oh, okay. Hello. Yeah, go ahead.
There's one side-by-side slide that, from what I heard while viewing it, said here are the ordinances and here are the ordinances, and I'm trying to read back and forth. And from what I heard, no changes happening. And then I hear all these changes happening. What's going on?
Okay, the slide that showed the side-by-side comparison talked about the public hearing process for changing the zoning. That would not be modified with the new ordinance. If you want to rezone your property, you sign a petition, you send it to the city, it goes to the planning commission and then on to the city council. That would continue with the Shape Places zoning ordinance.
So with this, you're just coming in and really designating areas already and setting up a criteria for building requirements, land, parkways, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the zoning districts have designated types of uses that are allowed in each of those zoning districts. So you could have residential zoning districts, you could have office zoning districts, commercial. With each one of those, you would say, here's the type of uses that could go there. And with the Shape Places, we're modifying the zoning districts in some cases to make them more specific. What the slideshow talked about as an example, in some of our residential zoning districts, twin homes or even fourplexes could go there by conditional use. Nursing homes, group homes, daycare centers. And what we heard from people during the development of this ordinance is that they would like to be more specific of what's going to happen in their neighborhood. So we redid some of the zoning districts to make them more specific. We took out some of the conditional uses. In the case of the commercial, again, as the slide of the video showed, right now, the example of 85th in Minnesota, with that zoning, anything over 15,000 square feet of building would have to come back through for a conditional use. With the Shape Places, we have created new types of commercial zoning districts, and each one has a maximum size of building. 4,000, 25,000, 75,000, and then unlimited. So that's some of the changes that are being proposed with the new ordinance.
If you stay with residential, forget commercial
Sure.
for a second.
Okay.
It seems like a little bit of this, shall we say. I want a single family home here only. I don't want to see a daycare center or a nursing home down the block from me. Where are you going to put nursing homes?
It doesn't mean that they couldn't go there, but instead of a conditional use, they would go through a rezoning process, and then Again, it would go to the planning commission and city council.
You're really making them jump through a lot of hoops to get established.
It depends on the location. I mean, some of the residential neighborhoods have more of a variety of housing types and others don't. So it just gives more options for developers and property owners. And one of the things that we've heard about in the past is that take a single-family development area where a twin home would be allowed by conditional use. And there's already a number of single-family homes built there. In many cases, people are opposed to adding twin homes in their neighborhood. So, again, that's some of the things that we heard through the public hearing process.
Are there tract homes developments going up here? Major developers putting in tract houses?
Now, what is your definition of a tract house?
Every third house looks the same, and we only have single-family dwellings, and we have nice cul-de-sacs, so we don't have drive-through streets, they're sectioned off, we don't want through traffic, we don't want, I was going to say 7-Eleven, a get and go on the corner, we just want a house, and we don't want a nursing home, and we don't want a person to have a duplex, we want the cookie cutter look for tract houses. That big developer comes in and takes up a big plot of land and says, I'm building 6,000 square foot house and you've got to really be able to afford this. Next developer comes in, okay, and, you know, I've got 2,000 square foot house. Next one comes in, you know, they're just not real friendly to lower income for one thing. They are not allowing for like a shelter or nursing homes and other living conditions.
Well, every neighborhood is different. Every development is a little different. Again, with our comprehensive plan, what we try to show is where you have major streets, that those would be places that you would have something other than residential. That could be a convenience store, it could be a large retail facility, again, depending on the location. So we try to identify these neighborhood or community or sub-regional employment centers that would serve all future residential development areas. And within every residential development area, we also try to plan if there's going to be a future need for a neighborhood school or a neighborhood park or a fire station. As far as the type of housing that gets built, that's really more up to the developer to decide. We don't determine the value of those houses, but the zoning, again, with shade places is going to be more specific up front as far as what type of development is going to go into any particular neighborhood area.
So if this isn't passed, it really is kind of more of a mixed bag for what's allowed in certain mileage, acreage of land.
Well, I think the best way to answer that, again, is it gives different options for types of development. We're still going to have residential, office, commercial development throughout the city. But with the new types of zoning districts that shade places would provide, again, I think it gives neighbors and developers more reliability at the beginning of the zoning process as far as what could go or what will go within a particular area. Now, an area could be zoned residential or commercial, and because of the long list of things that could go there, in some cases you really don't know for sure until a development comes forth for a conditional use permit. And as we heard people comment through the development of the shade places ordinance, again, they wanted more predictability as far as what the zoning was going to allow. Yep, go ahead.
There are options for mixed-use developments in shade places, so that option does come forward if a developer wants to do that. Yep. That seemed to be some of what you were asking. So that's an option that really isn't much of an option now. High density, single family would be much more of an option for shade places for single family. So there's other options like that too. Like We're trying to do that up front so people knows what it is.
Yeah, so if you've got a little tract development, I mean, I don't know what your verbiage is.
That's okay, go ahead and use that verbiage.
Yeah, okay, and someone wants to come in the next block and put in 4 apartment buildings or a plot of, have got apartment complex that's got 6 buildings to it. That doesn't really sound like you want that in your neighborhood.
Well, again, you would have to look at the specific factors of that development. I mean, we do have places where multifamily and single family are adjacent to each other. That does work, and it's becoming more common. Again, what Sam talked about is the mixed use concept. So the shade places would not eliminate that or even discourage it. It would provide for that option to happen.
But you have to go through a little bit of work to get there done.
And again, through the zoning process, you would know at the beginning where the higher density or where the lower density development is going to occur. Yeah,
So.
you have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's enough.
Go ahead.
So basically, if you're moving to town or moving to a different part of town, you can kind of look at the city's zoning map and say, oh, I'd like to live with only single-family residences, or I'd like to live in this area where there's a lot of different structures, and it's kind of, sounds like it's something where you can kind of pick where you're going to know what's going to be there more in this new ordinance.
Yeah, again, the reliability factor. Again, I'll repeat, currently in many of our residential zoning districts, you could put single family, or you could do twin homes, and in some cases you could even do fourplexes. So again, the conflicts that we've run into in the past is that a neighborhood gets established a certain way, and then because these other uses are allowed by a conditional use, then we have the neighborhood opposition that happens. With shade places, we could be more specific that here's the type of housing that will be within your particular area. And people would know as soon as they're starting to build there, or if they're already in that particular area. All right, it's officially 7:30 according to that, so thank you folks very much.
Thank you.
And our next one is going to be next Monday night at Morningside Community Center.
Covers the same things, though,
Yes,
right?
yep, they're all the same presentation, but you're welcome to come to more than one. Thank you. So I think, yeah, just with those codes go.
This one stays here.
That's right there. Would you mind taking it, because I'm not going to do it. Just take it back to Kathy. Okay, yeah.
Joyce, can you take this?
I was looking at it.
I'll look at the ways how you do that.
For engineers, it's like the area.
You have to take the,
No, we were looking at it, and it's actually just a couple different things that want to have to get in.
Oh, that's you.